Welcome everybody to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk, but today is a different type of episode as it's our first ever B&B Hockey Canucks Talk. I am Aaron Bloxel with my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer, and we're going to jump right into it. Both of us are big Canuck fans. We're going to talk about everything and all things Canucks. So, Matt, welcome to the show. And let's jump right into some of the forwards.
All right, yeah. So I think we'll quickly touch on last night's game going on, the guys. I think it was a bit of a rough game until the third period, where Brock Besser got his first power play goal since February 14th from last season, and Edler finally set him up for a perfect one-timer. So, he's up to 10 goals, 18 points in 21 games as he's starting to round into form. Getting those couple of weeks off just to recover from that groin injury has been huge for him and his return to his old form from last season.
And it was the first time I've seen Brock Besser look like the Brock Besser of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that happened, I was extremely happy to see his shot back. The one-timer, and we just haven't seen that yet this year because of the wrist injury, the groin injury, and maybe, just maybe, this might be the first time he's been healthy all year.
I know, yeah, it's really fun to watch, and then bringing up Pettersson as well, just pretty good, solid road trip here. He had the 5-point night in St. Louis. His second time he's done that already in his career. The Sedins only did that twice combined in their careers. So so not too bad. I think it was like his first 26, 27 games already, 2 5-point games, and only McGinley had more in a Canuck career. I think he did it 3 times. So it's a pretty impressive start to his career. He's up to 16 goals, 33 points in only 28 games, which is just crazy amazing. Just what he can do on the ice. And by far, it's just his time to lose the Calder Trophy. I think he's gonna take it. It's like Rasmus Dahlin and Miro Heiskanen have had good years, but the way he's playing, just every night, you just want to see what he's gonna do with the puck. And it doesn't matter if it's just a little deke or just the way he defends the puck away from a defender. He's just so fun to watch.
I think he's still the runaway winner right now for the Calder Trophy, unless something drastic happens. But Canucks pulled a goalie last night, even though they were shorthanded and they end up tying it. Surprised a lot of people, I think. They still end up losing in overtime, but I think 5 out of 6 points on the road trip, fans would be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, especially Bo Horvat coming up big there. Man, you just watch this guy every game, and you just got to wonder, why do the Canucks not give this guy the C? It's like, I don't even care. You don't even wait for the season to end. Just give him the C already. I think it was a funny moment way back when they had their California road trip. They were in Anaheim, and Solani was doing the opening face-off, and they called Captain Ryan Getzlaf and Captain Bo Horvat to take the ceremonial face off. So it's just like, hey, Anaheim knows what's up. The whole league knows, but and it's just the minutes. Like, he played over 24 minutes again last night against Nashville. Yeah, he had the goal, up to 15 goals, 29 points in 34 games. I think this guy is sort of shaping up, to be a really good power forward, and putting Goldobin on his line. I think that helps a little bit there. As he's more of a passer, as Horvat's more of a guy that gets the puck and he drives the net and scores the goal. So to have a guy that sets up some goals is really nice.
Jay Beagle scored his first as a Canuck last night. I see him continuing to do a lot of little things, face-offs, shot blocks. He really helps the penalty kill out, it seems. But more importantly, I think when he came back off of injury, it gave a guy like Bo Horvat a chance to play offensively again rather than defensively. And I think you're going to see even more of that when Sutter comes back after Christmas here. I feel the Canucks are a lot better, more balanced when Horvat and Pettersson are playing as offensive lines, and Sutter and Beagle are looking after the checking and defensive situations. But What does that do to have a guy like Beagle in the lineup? What does that do to a guy like Horvat where he can change his game? Or what does that say about Horvat where he can change his game from offensive to defensive depending on the situation?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, like what Horvat's done. I think the biggest thing is face-offs. Like, I think we were watching every game, and he was taking like maybe like 60 to 70% of all the draws, just because they couldn't trust anybody to win any face-offs. But yeah, getting guys like Beagle and Sutter back will really help Horvat. But yeah, Horvat, he said it many times throughout the year. Like, he wants to continue to improve and learn and be the best two-way player that he can be every game. And like, even on the overtime goal, he lost his man and he owned it after the game, saying it's like that was his man. It's like he should have had him, but he was just a step behind. So yeah, he just continues to improve, and also the Pedersen effect, like seeing a guy that continually improves his play even after practice. I think before they went off on this road trip, Pedersen stayed out after the practice just to work on his one timer. So he's always working on little things, and that's little yeah, just little things that you pick up around from your teammates.
Let's talk about a couple of young forwards on the team. Nikolai Goldobin, Jake Virtanen. Goldobin third on the team in scoring, 5 goals, 14 assists, 19 points. Virtanen, 10 goals, fifth on the team in scoring, with, I believe, 15 points. What do you think about their development so far over the this year, and of course, as to where they were last year?
Mm.
And I did hear Brian Burke this week talk about how the Canucks drafted Jake Virtanen exactly where him and the Calgary Flames had Virtanen penciled in, and thinks that Virtanen is still going to bring a lot to the table, because he said it's kind of like the Michael Furlan thing where you yell at him for not being a power forward and then you yell at him for not scoring. And they're just they're like a young teenager where they're trying to find that in between. You know, they got to learn where that they need to be big and physical and finish their hit, and they got to learn when to not be physical and take the puck and go in and score. And it's just one of those things that's tough to learn. But why don't you touch on Goldobin and Virtanen there for a bit?
Yeah. So Virtanen's had the biggest step forward, I think, this year. Like 10 goals in 33 games this year, or 34 actually. He had 10 goals in 75 games last year. So in less than half the games, he's matched his career high, which is huge. And now that he's getting a good opportunity to play with either Pedersen or Horvat every night, he's getting that chance in the top 6 to actually earn some good ice time, and he's producing this year. I'd still like to see him get a little bit more power play time than he is getting. But yeah, we're starting to see him develop into that top 10 pick that he was. I think the biggest thing is just trying to be a better playmaker and being in the right spot, because that's the one thing that we've seen the past couple of years. Like, we see all the skill set that he possesses, but most of the time it doesn't really come together. But this year, you've seen that step forward. Like, in the offseason, he worked with the skills coach to improve his game, and you're really seeing it so far to start the season. And to go on Goldobin, I still don't agree with that healthy scratch that Green did, but yeah, like scratching a top three point getter, that doesn't really look good. But he's come back and he's had a point in all but one game since that healthy scratch. I still rather like him with Pedersen than Horvat, though it doesn't really matter in the end. But I believe, again, just to some advanced stats, I think he's the leading shot maker for his teammates, for creating shots on goal in good prime scoring chances. So he only has the 5 goals, I like to see him get the puck in a little more, but he has the 14 assists. And so far, if he gets around that 45, 50 point mark this year, I call that a pretty good, successful season.
Yeah, and Jake Virtanen, of course, is on pace for 25 goals. I still like to see a lot of guys bouncing off of him when he gets going. He's just a nice skater to watch. But last forward I want to touch on is Josh Levo. How do you think that – I mean, obviously that trade's worked out really well already.
Yeah.
3 points in 5 games. Do you see him staying as a top 6 forward? How have you seen him fit in so far?
Yeah, so the most interesting thing is when Berici comes back from injury, because then you'll have Godolman and Berici usually as your top two left wingers. And then if you throw in a guy like Louis Eriksson, it could create some interest in ice time. But I think the Canucks really miss Berici. He has the three goals, 6 points in 10 games. And I think he really plays well with Bo Horvat when he is in the lineup. But getting back to Levo, I've really liked him with Pettersson so far. He's got a really nice shot, and so far has fit in pretty well. And it's another right-handed shot that can play the left-hand side. So he got Besser and Virtanen on that right-hand side. And if adding a guy like him to that left-hand side just gives him another option, especially being a nice young player still. He still has some upside, and hopefully he can continue his play of late.
Let's talk about your favorite subject, the defense on this hockey team. Chris Tanev, Alex Edler, they look like they've been still steady. Tanev, well, maybe, yeah, you know what? I was going to say Tanev's maybe taking a step back, but the guy's still blocking a lot of shots and playing his heart out. Stetcher and Hutton look like they've taken steps forward. But I know from night in and night out, both you and I get frustrated with Michael Delzato, Derek Pouliot, and sometimes Eric Goodbranson. But yesterday for me, it was Alex Biega. He always seemed to try to lead the rush and would get caught up the ice. I saw 3-on-1, 2-on-1, and it's like, oh, it was Biega again with the turnover. But what do you see them doing with this defense in the future? Like I think the writing's on the wall for Michael Delzato. I think at the end of the season they'll probably let him go. But what do you think they're going to do in the future here?
Yeah, so right now the only guys that are on this team that I think are worth keeping are Ben Hutton and Troy Stetcher for the long term. Like Edler, I'm hoping they move him at the deadline as long as they can get him to waive that no trade clause. Like he still had a good year, the 10 points in the 19 games, still logging those big minutes. Yeah, I think you brought Tanev up as taking a little bit of a step back, and I saw an article on the Athletic. Haven't read it yet, but it is going that saying Tanev's taken a little bit of a step back in his game, which is tough because with all the trade rumors that always come up every year, especially with the Toronto Maple Leafs, that's like the most.
I heard he's pretty untouchable though right now, because they want Tanev to be the one to help mentor Quinn Hughes when he steps.
Yeah, and if not Hughes, you got Ole Jolevi also coming up in the system, both left-handed shots, and Tanev can really balance out and be that defensive stalwart on that right-hand side. But Troy Stetcher, I want this guy to get more ice time, like every game. The guy's good on the PK when he does get out there. I still wouldn't mind him getting a little bit of power play time. The guy, he's small out there, but he does his job really well. And Ben Hutton, I know he's a -10 on the year, but playing with Goodbranson, what can you do on most nights?
Goodbranson to me is only, he makes the odd mistake, but he's looked a lot more solid this year than he has in the past. So that's why I'm not as hard on him, whereas Pouliot's look pretty solid, but he makes that one glaring error mistake, it seems, at least every game. It might only be one or two mistakes, but it usually ends up in the back of their net.
Yeah, the thing with Goodbranson is it's like I don't think he's like the best breakout defenseman. He can really make some really dumb plays at times. Like it's still nice to have a bigger defenseman back there, but I'm still just like when it comes to Goodbranson, it's just like I could care less about the guy still. When it comes to Derek Pouliot, I think this is a guy that could probably be in his last year with the Canucks. I think it was a risk worth taking. Like you see Andre Padan, he's playing in Russia this year now, and Pouliot, at least he got his shot last year. I really liked his play, but this year he's taken a bit of a step back offensively. He had that huge opportunity on that number one power play unit when Edler was hurt, and he didn't do anything with it at all. It's just like we were just watching him every game, just like, oh, why is this guy still out there? And then Del Zotto, I think this is his last year in the NHL. Like, I think the biggest difference is when he isn't in the lineup, the Canucks defense takes less penalties most of the time, because he's taken some real bad penalties. Like, we'll bring up that Montreal game in the final minutes where the puck is gone, and then he just goes and takes 3 steps and levels the guy, and then next thing you know, the puck's in the back of the net on the power play, and the Canucks lose a game that they could have at least gotten a point out of after tying it late. But yeah, this coming off season, I really want to see, or even going to the trade deadline, and then in this off season, what exactly they do. If they bring in a veteran defenseman to replace Edler, or if they just go young with Juolevi and Hughes coming in next year.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who they do decide to move at the deadline. I know they're still shopping Sam Gagner around. Del Zotto is one of those guys that you can move, and there is several others. I mean, maybe Barchi might be one of those guys that they decide to move, or Sutter. For me, there's you talked about it'd be interesting to see what they do in the offseason. There's a ton of RFAs out there. I don't see the Canucks making an offer on one of those RFAs, although it would be nice to have a guy like Matthews or Braden Point on your team. But there are some incredible UFAs out there too, and a few of the things I've thought of that the Canucks could do, because they have a lot of cap space, is make a real run for a guy like Erik Karlsson. Imagine bringing him in when you bring in Quinn Hughes. And you'd really be able to start bringing a lot of offense, and that would be some great mentorship for Quinn Hughes from one of the best. And also, you got a guy like Dante Fabro who's sitting in the Nashville system, who wants to play in the NHL, but probably, Nashville's track record and with the defense that they currently have says he's going to play in their minor league team. And if that's the case, he might play another year at university and go as a free agent. So why not, if you're the Canucks, make a run at him? He's a right-handed defenseman. He's from BC area. I'm sure would love to play in Vancouver. Canucks need right-handed defensemen, although they have another one in Jet Wu in the system who could very well be Quinn Hughes' the partner of the future as well, with his rugged, tough defensive play that he has. What are your thoughts on those? And why don't you touch on some of the prospects that you've been watching as well?
Yeah. So Fabro bringing up his name, that's really interesting, because when you got Ryan Ellis and PK Subban on that right hand side, you're not playing over those guys. So he'd be a bottom pairing defenseman, and he will be a UFA at the end of this year if he doesn't sign.
He's got one more year.
Okay, yeah. So that would be an interesting call, and then also these. The St. Louis defensemen that are starting to pop up in Alex Pietrangelo and Colton Parayko in trade rumors. Parayko is the guy that I would really be intrigued with, especially seeing him at the World Championships. The guy has a bomb of a shot, like just crazy good, and I think he could really be a big top 4 defenseman. It's just that he plays behind Pietrangelo, so he doesn't get talked about as much because he's not getting those top pairing minutes. But yeah, to get a big right-handed defenseman, because you got Quinn Hughes and Juolevi coming up on the left-hand side, you need that big right-handed defenseman. Like, you got Jet Wu, who's actually ripping it up for Moose Jaw right now in the WHL. He has 5 goals, 23 points in only 24 games. He didn't get the invite for Canada's World Junior camp, unfortunately, but is so far basically a point-a-game player as a defenseman, which is crazy good. And some other prospects I want to see. Zach McEwen is the guy that's getting brought up more and more about getting a call-up. He has 13 goals and 23 points in 29 games. He was an undrafted free agent that Benning signed last season. And he's big, 6'4", can play the wing. And especially when you have a guy like Tim Schaller, who only just played over 4 minutes last night, nothing on the penalty kill, nothing on the power play, has no goals this year in 29 games, and hasn't really done much. Like Benning says, like we brought these guys in like Roussel, Beagle, and Schaller to bring energy and forechecking and all that stuff and chip in here and there. And like I think Roussel's really excelled in that role. And Beagle, he's been injured, so you haven't seen it as much just because he's only played the 10 games. But Schaller, like outside of that game in Pittsburgh, I don't really remember anything from any of his games that he's played. And I'd love to see McEwen get a call. Jonathan Dahlen has really had a decent year so far in Utica. 7 goals, 17 points in 28 games. Those are the big two. And Yolevi, of course, 13 points in 18 games, but he's dealing with that knee injury right now. He was back on the ice skating by himself in Utica, but there's still no time frame for his return.
Well, how is Thatcher Demko playing down in Utica? I think Utica's season seems to have turned around since he's gotten healthy.
Yeah, so he's 4-3-0 in 8 games. I believe he's playing right now as well, but he has a 911 save percentage and a 2.47 goals against average. Utica hasn't been as good this year as in previous years with all the injuries in their play of late, but so far so good. I'd say I hope he gets a call up sooner rather than later. It does suck, as we'll bring up again, that when Nielsen did get hurt, that was the perfect opportunity to bring him up. But with the concussion problems for basically the first quarter of the season here, he was out. So far so good. Like the guy wants to play every game, as he's told his coach, but he sort of got to just ease him in still. I mean, especially with coming off a concussion, you don't want to work him over too much. And then some other prospects I'll bring up, like if guys looking like Cole Lind, Jonah Gadovich, the 2 second rounders from the past 2 years, they have a combined let's see here, combined for 6 points in Lind's case in only 11 games, has 2 assists, and Gadovich 4 points in 16 games. They've sort of been in and out of the lineup. Lind had an elbow injury that's held him out, but it's sort of been a bit of trouble to getting their young guys in Utica, as we saw Petrus Palmu went back to Finland 2 days ago. Went back to Finland just because he wasn't getting any playing time. And I saw a thing on Ryan Beach, who covers a lot of the Canucks prospects. Said it's just like he didn't do much when he played, but he wasn't really given an opportunity as well to exceed. And it does suck when these young guys aren't really given an opportunity, especially if you think you're Jim Benning. You'd want those guys in the lineup playing consistently every game. I know there's some rules where you have to have a certain amount of veterans and certain amount of young guys in the lineup for each game, so it's a bit of a rotation. But I'm hoping like outside of like Dahlen and McEwen, these guys can start to get going soon, because these guys had great years in junior, especially Cole Lind. I was hoping that he'd have a really good rookie season, but so far it's been with injury and a slow start, it's been a tough year.
Another defenseman, while we're talking about prospects, if the Canucks continue the way they are, and they for some reason don't win the draft lottery or trade up to get Jack Hughes, one of the guys I'm interested to see if they take is Vancouver Giants' Bowen Byram, one of the top defensemen right now of his age. Another guy that Canada kind of stiffed out of inviting to the World Junior Camp, but I wanted to bring that up. Goaltending, Markstrom, Nielsen. I personally, I think they're both playing fairly well compared to last year. You don't see the weak goals going in like we did consistently with Markstrom last year. Nielsen's really turned his game around. What has Ian Clark done as the goaltending coach to help these guys? And what have you seen as a big improvement from them both?
Yeah, so I still think they've had their ups and downs, but I think the biggest has been their stance, their goalie stances. I think a big thing was Nielsen. He was really hunched forward last season, and compared to this year, he's more leaned back. So when you're leaned back, you cover more of the net up front, and it's a lot easier to move and make saves. And at least Markstrom, he finally got his save percentage above 900 after last game in Columbus. So both goalies are at a 901 save percentage. So thankfully, because Markstrom's been under that 900 save percentage for most of the season. But Markstrom, especially of late, has played really well. I thought that Columbus game, I saw the first 2 periods before I had to go to my own hockey game, and I was just like, oh, Markstrom's standing on his head finally, and then he's probably not going to get any goal support once when he finally has a good game, but Canucks were able to come back and win that game. But yeah, Markstrom, he's still a bit athletic. It's like he has his hot streaks and he has his cold streaks. I think the biggest thing is not to overwork him, because we've seen him, like he'll get on that hot streak, and then when you continue to play him, then he lets in that odd bad goal here and there. So playing Nielsen in Nashville last game, I really liked, because like Markstrom, he played the 3 games, and then you get Nielsen in a game, and then that gives Markstrom that little chance to reset a little bit and then come back in and play, hopefully continue his play of late. But yeah, we'll see. I think we're still waiting for Demko and then eventually Michael DiPietro to get here and have those guys as our big 2 goalies.
I know Markstrom was named first star against Columbus, and Nilsson was named first star against Nashville last game. So I don't think you can ask anything more from your goaltending as of late. But anyways, we're running out of time, so I just wanted to let you get the final word in before we end today's special B&B Canucks hockey show.
All right, yeah, so I forgot to bring up Quinn Hughes, his point totals. He has 3 goals, 20 points in 17 games for Michigan this year, and I believe he's on a 10-plus game point streak right now. So the guy's absolutely ripping it up, and with the World Juniors coming up at the end of this month, especially here in Vancouver, I know he's playing in Victoria, so we won't be able to see him because we're on the mainland here, but I cannot wait to see this guy play. It's the guy's – he can skate, he can set up his guys, and either at the end of this year or next year, I cannot wait to see him play in a Canucks jersey. I'll have all the highlights up probably late tonight, because I have my own hockey game tonight. So another 8 games on today's schedule, and all the highlights from those games will be up very, very late tonight.
Fantastic. Remember to subscribe and comment on YouTube, or like us and follow us on Facebook. Again, we love the interaction with our fans. Continue chirping us, continue engaging us, whatever you feel like, because we love talking with you. So once again, for Aaron and Matt, this has been a pleasure bringing you B&B Canucks Hockey Talk, which we're going to do every Friday night. So everyone have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys all on Monday.